They were telling us about prominent people in Omaha and elsewhere that were abusing children at parties.
The prominent citizens' names that originally came up were of concern to me because I knew many of those individuals, and I, very frankly, was shocked to have those names show up on the list.
To provide the committee with hard evidence, the investigators recorded their new witnesses on videotape. Paul Bonassi had been the victim of abuse since he was 8. He was present at many of Larry King's sex parties. Caradori traced him to the county jail. He had been convicted of fondling his young cousin.
Who are some of these people that would come to these parties?
Larry King, Peter Citron, most of the while. He didn't seem like he wasn't like people.
Media personality Peter Citron procured some of his victims from Boys Town.
The kids he liked were mainly around the age of probably about 8 and 13. It was mainly fondling and oral sex with them. He did have some anal sex, but he usually did that with the older kids.
The parties involved ever more sadistic abuse.
Whenever you were tied up, was there anybody else present other than you, Peter Citron?
Yes.
Who was that?
It was Alan Bear sometimes.
Millionaire Alan Bear hosted parties for a large number of sadistic pedophiles. Paul Bonassi suffered at their hands.
Okay.
Yeah. They tied me up and I had some other kids perform sex on me and they hitting me and they burned me some cigarettes.
Okay. Just take a deep breath now.
And cross with Troy Bonner.
Troy Bonner would tie you up?
He was there.
Troy Bonner was found by the investigators and his videotape testimony taken under oath.
I was shocked when I walked in. There was a kid, I would say about 15 years old, out in the middle of the room. One guy was standing in front of him. He was bent over, and the other guy was like reaching under him, playing with his nipples, while a guy whom Jeff told me was a police officer shoving beads up his rectum.
The police officer was shoving beads up his rectum?
Yes.
Bonner named Alan Bear as the man who introduced him to the sex parties.
Alan Bear was a sick fuck. Didn't care, wanted sex, nasty, I don't even know if you can call it sex. Everything, I mean, from just, touching to fruit, squash, huge squash, that big around, stuck into you, into your ass, heat things, hot things, poked at you and stuck in you.
But the center of the child sex ring was Larry King.
Larry King was the same kind of sick fuck Alan Bear was, except Larry King was more violent, more sure of himself, I got those scars on my arm one night at a party where Larry King, wanted to see how strong a man we were or something, and have us push our arms together, and then you'd light cigarettes, and as soon as you get burning, you'd just drop them down between your arms and, let it burn. And they made us stand there naked and touch each other while holding our arms together and burn cigarettes where, it's on film someplace. I mean, they filmed it, burning, I mean, I would, see him fuck a 10-year-old boy in the ass, until he bled, and, just pull out and stop, and, push him down, and then go out and, meet with decent people.
King would also provide underage girls for abuse. Alicia Owen told the investigators she was 15 when she attended her first party, introduced by a Boys Town boy. Caradori discovered her in jail where she was serving a sentence for passing bad checks.
I met some guys there that were from Boys Town. And it was at that party that I met Larry King. At the time that I met Larry King, I did not know that he was Larry King. I had met him. It was the first time I'd ever met him.
Larry King and Alan Baer frequently hosted the child sex parties in penthouse apartments at the Twin Towers luxury block in Omaha.
A lot of it was me handcuffed with my hands behind my head and my feet tied and doing different things.
What do you mean?
Sometimes there'd be a guy straddling over my face.
Okay.
Most of the time, Larry King took pictures quite a bit during that time.
I know it's difficult.
I don't know.
Okay.
And I think I could have said no.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Okay. And you know, Alicia, you're a victim. And with a young age, let's go off camera for a minute.
We were appalled. Appalled. I don't even know if it comes across on the video the way it came across to us in person. It was incredible. It's incredible what these kids went through, I think.
Larry King was also here. He came in and we drank and did cocaine. I didn't do much. So he turned me on to what Larry King did.
Drugs was a strong part of how they got control of some of the kids, because that's what some of the kids were there to get. They would do the sexual acts and then be provided with cocaine or whatever type of drug they wanted.
Heroin, you know, I don't know, but that was my drug of choice, you know. Till this day, I remain an addict, you know.
And those of us that didn't like to be involved and didn't want to be involved were threatened.
Oh, so and who would do these threatening remarks?
Larry King.
Do you think Larry King personally did?
I mean, I think he did. And when they threatened, you know, that I can go find somebody that will kill you, and it will kill your family, you don't tell anybody.
Larry King was, I would say, the center of transporting the children around the country. The airplanes were usually in his name, at least in his name. They were paid for by Larry King.
We met them in Pasadena.
Met who in Pasadena?
We met, Larry King was there. There was 3 boys that I had seen at one of the receptions at the French Cafe were there. And I'm almost positive they were Boys Town boys. Almost positive. They were there.
You mean graduates of Boys Town or present?
I think they were present because they were young.
Well, how would they get away for a long period of
I
time?
have no idea.
Okay.
Boys Town came up frequently during the investigation, but we found it very difficult to get information about Boys Town. I was not able to find any information on my visit there, and Mr. Caradori could not get information either.
Boys Town today remains unwilling to discuss its involvement with Larry King. We were banned from filming at Boys Town, and its public affairs officer refused any interviews.
I would have to give you a flat no. I'm just going to tell you at this point that we will not participate with you. We have no interest in talking to you folks. It's something that we don't even care to delve into.
By the spring of 1990, the Nebraska State Committee was convinced by the evidence of an organized child abuse ring. Its chairman, Lawrence Schmidt, sought the advice of his lawyer, John DeCamp. On his advice, Schmidt turned over all the sworn evidence to the FBI. But immediately, the videotape testimony was leaked to a hostile local media.
The media immediately started discrediting the witnesses. They were, the witnesses came across in the media, in the Omaha World-Herald, especially, as the criminals.
The last 3 victim witnesses were demolished by the press, particularly the Omaha World-Herald. The paper never looked for information that would support any of the allegations. The whole purpose of the stories was to destroy any credibility that these youth may have.
I've heard that people said that Gary Caradori coached me and that he told me what to say, but the fact was I didn't meet Gary Caradori until way after I'd already talked to the Omaha police about the abuse and had named all the same people.
Paul Benassi maintains that neither the FBI nor the Omaha police took his allegations seriously.
And they didn't ask me very much about Larry King or even Alan Bear at all. They treated the allegations that I made about the people who abused me almost like a joke.
The stories were of such significance that the investigators first wanted to prove the accuracy of the stories. As they set about the investigation of the 3, initially 3 and then a 4th person who were telling the stories, as the investigation developed, it became obvious to the investigators that the information was not accurate, that in fact it was an entire conspiracy of allegations, none of which had any truth to them.
I was very disappointed with the way the FBI and law enforcement treated the victims. They, in fact, turned them into the offenders, so to speak. And instead of taking the evidence that was delivered to them by the victims and interrogating the persons whom the victims identified, they seemed to bear down and try to get the victims to change their story.
It seemed to the investigators that the establishment of Omaha was closing ranks. Then Troy Bonner was brought in for questioning by the FBI.
The FBI's attitude was, just no, these kind of things don't happen. From the first interview when I went, and realized they don't believe a fucking thing I'm saying, they were just appalled, but I realized what that look in their eye was back then. It was fear. It was fear of it, I had witnessed, firsthand things that would, destroy this city, people, a position, what I mean? It's not going to be believed, they said. It will not be believed. You will be found guilty of perjury, and they weren't telling me maybe. They were saying, there's no way. You go on with this story, you're going to jail. That was said to me direct.
Troy Bonner agreed to withdraw his videotape testimony. The FBI used Troy in an attempt to persuade fellow witness Alicia Owen into abandoning her evidence about Larry King's nationwide network of powerful pedophiles. We have obtained the recording of the phone call made by the FBI on March the 9th, 1990. It is significant evidence for John DeCamp.